Hey everyone, it's JPC, and this is the second episode of Back in My Day. I started this podcast because I get questions from time to time that I answer on the fly, but with the podcast, I can really formulate my answers with some structure and deliver them with thought and intent. I also get to take some reps at storytelling, which has been a kind of long time to do for me. This week, we're discussing time management. I get asked about how I'm able to find time to be a husband, a dad, work a full time demanding job, and still get my Valorant in. This is my attempt to explain my situation and the specifics around how I manage my time to maximize that availability, which allows me to be consistent with practice and competitive matches. So, hopefully, this is helpful to everybody. And if nothing else, the overarching points help you find a way to manage your schedule. Of course, let's go ahead and start off with some caveats. My responsibility flexibility, or I guess work flexibility for to avoid the weird pseudo alliteration. Um, I have to be in the office for my job at least 3 days a week, and other days I get to work from home. Um, I'm only Monday through Friday, so I don't have the weekends. So my schedule is semi flexible. On the days that I can work from home, I don't have to start work until 8 o'clock, or somewhere around 8 o'clock, and my day ends. When it ends, I'm already home. So there's a lot of benefit there. Before the beginning of the new year, I was remote 5 days a week. So things changed pretty significantly for me in 23 when we started to do a hybrid schedule, and I had to adjust my schedule, my practice, my um, comp uh, games based off of that. And I'll go into that a little bit later, but I had a lot more flexibility. I still have some flexibility, and I know some people don't really have that. So that's one major caveat, and I wanted to kind of put that out at the beginning that there is some flexibility in my schedule. The second caveat, which I think is the most important caveat, is my family. Right, I have two kids. I have a wife. She works full time as well. So uh, I am fortunate enough that in my relationship that I have a extremely flexible partner. We work to manage the kids together. They have baseball and soccer right now. There are after school camps and things that we send them to. And when I have something that I want to uh, take care of, like for example, hey, I need to do X right after work. She will go and pick up the kids that day, um, and then we compromise. So I guess I want to put that out there that I have a very compromising relationship. Wow, that sounded really bad. We have a lot of compromise in our relationship, and we figure out how to manage those things together, and that's a lot of the flexibility that I have comes from a W wife, right? W partner, and and the kids are understanding as well, right? One of the things I do with my kids is I'm constantly explaining to them the things that I want or the things that mommy want to do. And I actually talk a little bit later about needs and wants, and the kids get that. We talk to them about those things, and again, I'll go into that later as well. But my Sunday stream with Wahoojan, the kids know that Sunday mornings we get up and they're going to go do something with mom, and they generally, for the most part, don't come into the office. So there's a lot of ground setting there that I also talk about a little bit later, but a lot of flexibility in the family dynamic there. So getting those caveats out of the way, let's get into it. First thing I want to go into is kind of planning, expectation setting, and I also want to talk about sleep in this section as well. Um, High level, I want to discuss kind of what my schedule looks like before Valorant is considered. I talked earlier about how I had a lot of flexibility working at home before the beginning of 2023. But I'll talk about my schedule as it is today. So Monday through Friday, I go to work. There are 2 days a week that I work from home. Those days I can get up a little bit later, obviously, and I get when I get off of work, I can do the things that I have planned a little bit sooner. That being said, I have a little bit of time between when I get off and when the kids get home from after school care that I usually try to incorporate my daily practice. If the kids come home and I'm still in the middle of my practice, obviously I can stop it because it's less rigid as like playing a comp game. Or again, they have to get their homework started and things like that. So I can finish what I'm doing as they're starting their homework, and then I can jump in and go help them with their homework should that be needed. Of course, the weekends are a little bit more open. We still have things going on: baseball games, soccer games, birthday parties, things that constantly are happening over the course of the weekend. So, um, structurally, we're looking at figuring out how to get the daily during the weekday practice and comp done, and then the weekend ones tend to kind of work themselves out. The one additional item that I want to mention is that the kids are in bed before 8:30 every night. Um, it is a standard um, set expectation in the house, and that's where my evenings kind of free up, which is why I can only play comp after that time. All right, so with my schedule kind of vaguely put out there for what availability I have, I go and I set expectations for my wants here. So with Valorant right now is my I don't have a whole lot of free time, so it's my one want. It's the one thing that I want to find time for. So I have to find 30 minutes for practice, and I have to find what would be, I guess, around 2.5 hours of comp time. As I said, the practice item, the 30 minutes, I tend to find that little gap of time after work to when the kids get home. Um, that kind of works out really well for me. On days that I work from home, I can actually do that before I go get the kids because we have some wiggle room there. The comp time, as I stated earlier, the kids going to bed at 8:30, that's built into one, that's just healthy for the kids. Having that structure is healthy for the kids. But then that is my time. My wife is a early bird. She goes to bed early, she wakes up early, so I actually have a lot of wiggle room there too. Once the kids are down, then the evening is my time, and I'm able to then do my warm up, do my comp, and then sometimes I'll go in and I'll update different things with the YouTube video or whatever. Go put the timestamps into the video and update the title, blah blah blah. So I have a little bit of time, but then I have to go to bed because sleep is super important for me as well. The days that I perform the worst at work with the family, because people get short tempered at times and people feel stressed and pressured, and then also in Valorant, which I want to make sure is listed last there because it's the least important of all of those things. Are the days that I don't get good sleep. And again, I wanted to bring up sleep here because um, you have to build your schedule around all those needs and the sleep, which has to be considered a need before the want. And that sometimes means that I'm not going to play a game or I'm not going to play comp. I'll get my practice in, but then I have to go to bed early because I can't underperform in everywhere in life just because I wanted to play a couple of comp games that night. Obviously, there's a consistency metric that the Wahoojan server kind of has for VOD submissions, and I want to live into that as well myself. Consistency was one of the key items to Wahoojan's. How do you improve? Right, it's you have to consistently play. So finding time to ensure that you're getting those in while not sacrificing your sleep is very important, and I build that into my schedule as well. The second thing I want to talk about now is prioritizing and removing distractions. This is where I want to talk about wants and needs, and how the items I do in the first part, the planning and expectation settings, are all around wants and needs. And there's kind of a subcategory within wants, right? I think needs are needs, and you have to be able to recognize what those needs are, based off of your responsibilities and your accountability. They are different for everyone, but there are some things that are the same for everybody, right? Your family should always be a priority. It should be a need. Your um, income, your job should be a need. For once, I think you have kind of two segments there. You have kind of a little bit of a dichotomy between. It's not a dichotomy. I shouldn't even use that word. You have prioritized wants, and then you have dream wants, as it were. So I talk a little bit in the intro every time about storytelling. Like there was a period of time where my prioritized want was writing, and storytelling, and uh, it wasn't something that I prioritized above, let's say, Netflix. And so anytime I got some free time, well, hey, now there's a new episode of My Little Pony. Yes, I watch My Little Pony, and you could anyway. Um, with that, uh, Valorant became a prioritized want, and I put it in front of the other things that I like doing, the other wants that I had. I can't be a writer if I don't read. I can't be a storyteller if I don't consume stories. But that has been kind of deprioritized for this itch that I have for challenge and for improving at something. So Valorant is kind of taking that over. So wants and needs, like you have to be able to identify your needs, and then you have to be able to identify what of your wants you're willing to sacrifice for uh, the 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 thing you want to improve at. So if you're listening to this because you're trying to improve at Valorant, well, you need to push the other wants down, focus on scheduling your needs and ensuring your needs are completely handled, and then prioritizing Valorant. It can go for anything else, but you have to figure those two items out. What is your prioritized want, and what is your dream want? Um, uh, yeah, with that. Anyway, what I had to do was recognize any time that I had free time, what did my mind wander to? So I talk about here a little bit about listing distractions. So I mentioned Netflix earlier. All of the TV, like I love TV. I'm a um, I don't know the proper word for it. I'm a nerd. Let's call it that. I will watch a show and give it a chance. I'll give it 5, 6 episodes, and then I'll just like, yeah, I'll find something else, and I'll go, and then I won't even think about it. I'll just start watching another show randomly. But it has been since starting this Valorant journey. I have reduced the amount of movies and TV I watch. I've reduced the amount of books that I read because I have actually prioritized this Valorant as my number one want. And now I'm doing these things now, like this podcast, because I can record this segment here. And if something happens in the house, I need to go, cook food or do some laundry or whatever, I can finish this segment and then go do that and come back and into so like anytime I can find a way to, I guess, supply chain um, a a want that I have, it becomes actually very useful for getting those non-prioritized wants. So it's been a lot of fun trying to figure out when I can and cannot do the additional ones or add them to my life. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about work first, play later, which again kind of goes back to the needs and the prioritized wants and things like that. But I can't remember where I heard it, and I don't even know if I'm going to say this correctly. But um, eat the frog for breakfast. Do the thing you don't want to do first. Um, the thing that has to be done. That's not fair. I don't want to say don't want to do the thing that has to be done, right? And sometimes that thing is something you don't want to do. Sometimes that thing is something that you do want to do. But eat the frog for breakfast, right? Do the thing you don't want to do or the thing that is not the most exciting thing first. Get those things out of the way. Um, it is has been a staple of mine throughout my life to do that, and that also allows me to again go back to prioritizing things appropriately, and then finding the expectations, and then finding the way to set those expectations for myself, and finding a way to set those expectations for the family that I can uh, find time for my wants and my prioritized wants because I got the things that had to be done first. Procrastinating is not useful to an optimized schedule. All right, last little topic here then, right? I'm talking about I want to talk about being flexible and how to not get down on losing time. I say get down on it. Basically, feeling like you can never get back to it. Oh, that this is one of my wants. It's one of my prioritized wants, and I can't get to it this week. Um, it happens, right? Shit happens, and there are going to be times where you just have to again eat that frog for breakfast, and maybe that's a week long breakfast at that point. So it's not really the same as having bigger needs, but I had COVID in February and I couldn't play for 4 days. And then throughout the next 2 weeks, there were flus and all kinds of things rolling around the house. Two sick kids, that's not something that one parent can deal with. And if there are single parents out there, you guys have my hat off to you. Um, it is not easy not having support, and uh, it's just something that it happens. And then we took a vacation a little bit after that. So I had this period of almost like a 1 month period where I couldn't do my game every night. I couldn't do my practice every day. When we're going on, and it's okay. So the way that to think about those scenarios and when those things happen is reset, right? Inertia is a thing. They talk about with dieting or working out that the hardest day is the first one. Just start it. That's the same for getting back. The moment you aren't able to complete a consistent routine, the hardest thing to do is well, I say the best thing to do is just get right back on it the next day. It's okay. It's totally fine. Um, for dieting, again, I'm good. I haven't had a soda since August of 2021 or something. If I have a soda tomorrow, then that's okay. Just move on from it. Stop drinking soda again. Don't get yourself in the habit of doing the bad thing or the thing is not optimal consistently. Go back to the right thing as soon as you can. That's good and it's helpful. That being said, there are times when you need the break. There are times when you're getting burnt out on the consistency because you're trying to squeeze in the time to continue the routine, to continue the routine. And I mentioned earlier about sleep, like you've got to be able to assess when you need a break. You've got to be able to assess when um, it's it's been too much and you need a moment. It's okay to miss a day. So I want to be consistent. I want my tracker for comp games. I want that calendar to be read all the way through. But going back into the office when we started that in 2023 again, um, there are days where I come home and I can't. I physically can't. And I know that I will be awful tomorrow if I don't take my break, get good sleep, reset how I need to, even if that's a glass of whiskey, you know what I'm saying? And start again tomorrow. That's okay. You have to recognize what you do and don't need. And again, that goes back to want. It's a prioritized want. It's not a need. You have to prioritize health over the prioritized wants. It's extremely important, and I think it's one of the main ways that I've been able to, um, I don't know, maintain my sanity through being a 40-year-old who's trying to um, power power play Valorant, as it were. I'm only getting 2 to 3 games in a night when I play, but still, that's a lot. That's it's a lot for me to let go of other things that I used to like doing and focus on that, and it's effort and it's pressure and it's, uh it's a mental exercise, and if you don't find a time to reduce burnout and ensure that you're not burning out, it will affect you. And then I guess the last thing is, kind of along those lines is reassess periodically. Reassess your schedule, take a look at it. If something new has crept in and your original expectations are I guess, getting, guillotined, and for lack of a better word, um, it's okay, reset, figure out how you can get your prioritize once in again. Um, Maybe that does mean that instead of playing 6 days a week, you go back to 5 days a week. Um, and and give yourself the time to not be pressured by the schedule. If you're pressured by the schedule, then you're gonna be even more pressured by doing the things that you wanna do. Um, got to set up a very strong and optimized schedule for yourself, and then everything else kind of falls in where it may. The last thing kind of to throw in here is maybe you need to take a break away from it for a longer period of time. Maybe it needs to be a 2 week, 3 week, 4 week break so that you can get things off your plate, um, fix the needs, um, to ensure that you can go back to having that. And that's okay. That is okay. That's not, you're not a disappointment. You're not a failure because you weren't able to keep this up. Um, if something were to happen um, to my job, to my wife, my wife's job, to my kids, Valorant is not going to be that important thing, and I will drop it and get back to it if my schedule ever allows it again. Um, it has been a very important part of my mental health to be playing Valorant. It actually is very good for me. I'm the type of person that is energized by improving at something, and so it's been very good for me, which is why I've prioritized that one. But you're not a failure if your needs take up the time that you were using for that. So reassess. Always reassess and ask yourself, um, do I need to take a break? And that's okay if you do. All right. Well, that's it for time management, guys. Back in my day, we managed our time differently. Um, that didn't make sense. You know what I'm going for there. I'm going with their catchphrase. Basically, start off by planning and setting your expectations, right? You got to make sure that you know what it is you want and what it is you need, and you need to make sure that you're including sleep in your needs. Sleep is not something that you can consider just a want. Prioritizing your day and making sure that you are eating that frog for breakfast, and figuring out your distractions and limiting those, or scheduling those to time that it doesn't matter that you do them. And then be flexible with your schedule. You can assess it, you can reassess it, you can modify it, you can miss it. You're allowed to take breaks from it. Make sure that you are flexible with your schedule. It's going to be important for you in the long run. Uh, Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you all for listening. I hope that this was informative and useful. And let's see, next week we are going to look at optimizing practice for improvement. I went over this a little bit in the episode last week when I talked about my training routine, but I'm going to look to get a little bit more in depth into how I specifically practice, um, and why I've been able to kind of go from zero to boomer hero, in a couple of months. Again, I'm not great. I'm only plat 3 right now. Um, I'm never gonna go pro. I'm not none of that's true, but um, one of the things I've always been good at is maximizing my outputs. So hopefully that's helpful, and hopefully you're interested. And thank you all once again. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.